So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first Goalball UK Timeout GB special. Tonight, we're joined by Joe Roper. Hi, Joe. How's it going?
Right, Catherine. Yeah, going all good. Considering the situation and all.
Brilliant. Okay, so what we're going to do is we've got a few kind of questions. We're going to do the life and times of Joe Roper, and there'll be some questions coming in from the floor and some questions that have come in the build up to this as well. So we'll just start off with a bit of a background info, a bit of personal info. So am I correct? Are you 22 at the moment?
Yeah, I am. I am.
So you're part of the Fen Tigers elite setup, and then also part of the GB under 23s and the senior men as well. So we'll talk a bit later probably about GB and your journey to there. In terms of your eye condition, can we start there then? So what's the nature of your visual impairment?
My main one is retinitis pigmentosa, which is it comes from my grandfather, so it's like inherited from my mum basically, and it deteriorates over time from like outer to inner to like total blindness by like 30s to 40s sort of range, and it's not stable, but it's deteriorating at a steady rate, and yeah, got a good hold on it at the moment, so it's all good.
Brilliant. So what are kind of some of the daily challenges off the court then? Obviously on the court, eye shades are on, everyone's goal ballers, everything's good. So what kind of things do you find challenging on a day-to-day basis?
Just sort of knocking cups of water over on a daily basis, making a bit of a mess, and like sort of clipping the edge of doors and like countertops, and that can leave a bit of a bruise in the hip sometimes. That's the main ones, and like sort of winter time as well, when it gets dark quite early, means sort of the sight's gone from outside, so tend to stay in a lot more and hide under this light in my bedroom.
Yeah, as you say, it's hereditary. So for those that don't know, we've got the full-on Roper family involved in goalball. So you want to tell us a little bit about the family affair then and how Fen Tigers came about?
Yeah, obviously started. Most people probably know him from my older brother Dan Roper. When he went to RNC, he found it, and then when he finished RNC, he moved back to he moved to March, where I currently live in England, and he wanted to start up a club, and with the help of Emma, our stepmom, we started our club Fen Tigers with just the four of us. So it was and Laura, sorry, Dan's fiance. Yeah, so for the good first year, it was just a family affair of the five of us playing goalball at novice, and then sort of rising to intermediate, and really performing well as a team and as a family unit. And the club's really been growing strong. We've got probably about 12 consistent players who like come to training and like a part of the team now. So we've grown quite well from just the five of us 4 years ago now.
Yeah, fantastic. I've got it down. I'm kind of digging through the Goalball UK stats, and I found your debut as being a novice tournament in Reading in March 2016. Fast forward 1 month, that's all, and April 2016, we find you at an intermediate tournament in Cambridge. So very, very quick kind of progression. And then by February 2017, so less than a year after you first started playing, you made your elite debut playing for RNC. So really, really kind of fast rise through the gold ranks. I probably know the answer to this question, but one of the questions that came in advance from Antonia was, is there a goalball player who inspires you?
Yeah, my main inspiration, I get inspired by quite a few people, to be honest, but the main one that's driven me since the start is one of my older brothers, which is Dan, who obviously he's sort of the main catalyst for who I currently am like as a player, and what keeps on like sort of driving me, and he's like a driving force for me to get better. And yeah, ever since the start, he's just always spoken so passionately about the sport, and it's like sort of eked out for me now as well. I'm just as passionate as him, and it's just been like he's just like say coached like fast track from the start, novice, and then a month later intermediate. We can thank Dan and Laura, because they were our two people, our two sources of how to play goalball, and they really got us into a good like competitive situation to really sort of push us on that forward momentum. But from like a few other people who like sort of go for adversity, I find like people like Patrick Dunn, who's obviously got cerebral palsy on like half his body, and he's a solid intermediate player. He's not he's not a pushover, and he just loves the sport as well. I get inspired by quite a few people in this sport. But But Dan's my main sort of drive and my main pusher in this in goalball, and he's what like sort of makes me become a better player every day.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. From a personal point of view, I think the first time I saw you play, I think it was the intermediate finals. It was definitely at the IS down in the badminton hall, as it used to be. And I think one thing that really, really struck me was your agility, the speed at which you transferred back to your feet. And I think it's fair to say that sometimes people who don't know goalball that well, assume that the taller you are, the kind of better goalball you are, you cover the court. But I think it's down to tracking skills, isn't it? And then that agility. And for me, that's what's always stood out with yourself, just the speed of movement. So would you agree with that?
Yeah, I definitely would. Like the classic goalball player you look, especially for the men's side of the sport, it's 6'4", it's 6'2", really tall, quite big burly blokes, or quite sort of lanky with long limbs. But I found like being this short stature that I seem to have, luckily for my genetics, I'm unbelievably quick with movement and diving towards the ball, and like say getting up on my feet and like conserving energy as well. Like I can last a lot longer than some of the bigger players at international level. And I think it's, some people see it as a disadvantage. There's not many people my size who play the sport and play at the international level, but I see that as a positive, because I'm showing people that you can do it at whatever size you are and like whatever build type you are. There's a place to put you on the court, and there's an effective way to use your body composition to be the best that you are. And that quick and that agility side of it, it's such a, I love it. I like being the quick one and the nipping around the court and sort of scooping the ball out of the back just before it gets across the line and all that sort of stuff. It gives me a real adrenaline rush. The heart starts beating and stuff. So yeah, I definitely would say being small and agile is just as effective as being tall and big, because you just do the same amount, but it's just a little bit differently transversed on the court side.
Yeah, I was at the GB men's camp a couple of weekends ago, and I think what was really interesting was the versatility within the squad, in that players were really rotating positions. So we had to nail you to one position. What would you say is your preferred position? And do you have a kind of top tip for anybody out there who plays that position?
My best position that I've played is definitely the centre, the sort of main defending role that most people see as. And again, I just enjoy that sort of place, being the main line of defense, making sure that you are holding down, sort of keeping your wingers like not in check, but nice and relaxed, and letting them know everything's fine in the centre of the court, so they got the best way to attack. And like advice for anybody sort of wanting to improve being in centre, or like a couple of tips, it's staying nice and calm and like focused on where the ball is, if it's left or if it's right, then how it's coming at you towards court, and sort of just waiting that extra second and then pouncing on the ball, and not sort of jumping in, like not free, but sort of impulse jumping to one side and it's gone to your left instead of your right, which you thought, because you just reacted that extra second. And another one is like, as a centre, you might not be shooting as much, but if you can sort of track where your players have been shooting, say a couple have been at 7, which is the right post, and a couple at 3, which is in between the left and the centre, that 5 might be open, which is obviously then in between the centre and the right winger, and you can feed that on to one of your shooters, saying that you've got a really nice shot into 5. And it might not work, but I had it. We had GB training this weekend, and I gave Dan 2 shots, and he nailed them, which gave us 2 goals in a game, which means I can get an assist, even though I'm not shooting. I can guide my shooters where the next goal might be, and it's just as useful.
Yeah, real kind of teamwork that goes on there. Yeah. Another thing you're working on, and we're not going to give away any secrets here, you're working on a fancy new shot. And another focus of the session as well was a lot to do with penalties. So is there anything specific, if we look at first taking a penalty, so from an attacking point of view, what's kind of your mental preparation when you've got that ball in your hands, you're waiting for the referee to say play? Is there any kind of mental rehearsal? What do you do? What are your top tips there?
So it starts kind of before, in my opinion, before you got the ball in your hands. If you know like the penalty's been thrown and you're going to take the shot, you just immediately have in your mind that penalty that you're going to do. It's just you sort of rehearsing it. It's, you're going to do a 1-1 or a 4-1. And you're just rehearsing it in your head, and then you make sure when you nail it, you take a nice bit of a breath beforehand, and then you just run through the motions that you've been practicing. So nothing changes in your shot. You redo your steps that you've been doing in practice, and everything should normally work out, and it should go down the line that you've been imagining. You've been wanting it to do that 1-1, and then you've sort of willed it into happening because you've just sort of been thinking about it for that long. And that's my advice on taking a shot, really, in penalties. Just really sort of thinking about what you're going to be doing in that moment.
Yeah, so like any sport, really, that repetition, the practice is important, and the confidence as well. So they always say in football, don't they, never change your mind, always make sure you're clear with where you're putting that ball. And that's obviously the same in goalball. So let's flip it round then. We'll say it's a team penalty. We won't say it's a personal penalty, because I'm sure you don't give many of them away. But if you're defending a penalty now, so what are your top tips there? What do we need to think about for that?
See, this is a little bit harder because there's like I say, there's a lot more sort of variables to go on, like what the opponent's going to do, and a lot of people choose different like sort of starting positions. Like some people might just choose a side, which is either the left post or the right post, because you know it's going to go one of them directions, and it's a 50-50 chance of you're right. But personally, for me, I quite like the fight and making sure I'm not going to just have a flip of a coin chance of it going in one side or the other side. So I always try and set myself up just back center, up on my toes, so I'm nice and poised, ready, and sort of shifting my body weight from left to right, and just wait. And the second the ball's been released, it's really quick. You got to really it's like an instant sort of gut feeling. If you get it wrong, it will be going in. It can happen to anybody. It happens to me all the time. But if you can track the ball going left, that second you tracked it, you sprint left, and then you transition nice and low on the floor into that full barrier, and you should have taken your speed and your momentum into that dive and gotten in front of the ball. But it's a very sort of it's a lot more of a riskier one, because you're relying on your own skills and your own reaction times to sort of make it to the ball, instead of, like, say, some people will at high levels it might be more worth it, because if you get people like Dan or some Lithuanian players, the ball can be in the net in a second and a bit, if that. So it might be worth, the speed it's going, just sitting at 1, sitting at 7, and you've got a good chance. So it's sort of, it varies from situation to situation, who you're shooting against, who you're defending against, and like what your personal preference is. But like you said before, it's practice that makes perfect. You'll always get better at defending penalties and shooting pens the more you shoot and the more you defend penalties in like your own club situations.
Yeah, and I suppose managing your emotions as well, because you'll always do your best to stop it, but the reality is it is going to go in sometimes. So I suppose you try not to get too frustrated, and you can analyse afterwards and look how to improve. But I suppose at the time, it's just getting your head back in the game, isn't it? And not worrying about what's happened and moving on. Yeah.
You just reminded me there, actually. Sorry, Catherine. The most nervous I probably have ever been in any game would have been my first Europeans, and it was the game where we might have been relegated, which means we'd have been going down to the C's instead of staying into the B's. And I threw a long ball, and I think we were tying 1-1, and I remember my heart rate is never beaten so fast in my life. It was going like the clappers. And I remember what I did was I chose, like, sort of shifted my body like a couple of steps to the left, and they called a penalty. I mean, they called a timeout for it, because I obviously guessed the side that they were going to shoot, and they wanted to make sure it scored. And in this timeout, Alex Bunny came up to me and told me he wanted me to go straight up to that high ball line. And I had that trust in Alex, because he is really good at controlling and like understanding what shot they're going to do next. And I had that full faith in Alex and what he said, and my maybe full faith. But then I knew the pen's not fully on me now, because I'm going with what Alex is saying. Maybe that was a little bit, but no, my heart rate went right down, and I just trusted the Alex Bunny, and went straight up to the high ball line. And they did a cross court, and right into my stomach, stopped it, and back in the game. And like you say, it's keeping your emotions in check can be really, really crucial, because in that game we won by 1 goal. So that penalty would have, if I didn't stop that penalty, we'd have been in overtime, and it could have been a completely different story.
Yeah. It's managing the highs as well as the lows almost, isn't it? So we've had a few questions coming in, which we'll pick up on in a minute, relating to lockdown and a few other things. Just one more observation from the current or the most recent GB camp that I was at. Very important question, this one. I noticed that Dan was in charge of the music. Now, if you ever get to wrestle the music away from him, what would you be playing? What would be blasting out if you were, if it was DJ Joe? What would we be listening to?
DJ Joe. See, I feel like my musical taste. I've been very impressioned by my older brothers Dom and Dan. My musical interest comes a lot from them too, I will admit. But maybe a bit more current music. So I do like we don't have it much at camps, but I do quite like a Miley Cyrus Party in the USA and a couple bit more party disco-y songs. But for the whole the GB vibes, I quite like Dan's taste of music, and we also get Caleb as well on the old speaker every now and then, and he chucks out a completely different vibe for training. And yeah, I quite like not having that responsibility at training, because I feel like my music taste isn't the most refined, to be honest.
I feel sorry, everyone. I feel like I need to jump in here. And when I did the GB camp a couple of months ago, I don't think, and probably Stephen Newey will back me up on this, I don't think I heard one song the whole way through. I think I must have heard 30 seconds of a song, and then you'd start getting into the song and you think, oh yeah, this is a really good song, this, and then it'd change and it'd just carry on for the full session. So
yeah, that's something you got to get used to, the constant flipping of music. Next track, 40 seconds in, you might be lucky if you get to hear the chorus twice, I will admit.
Yeah, it was good though. I like the mix. We went. I think we visited most decades. It was good. Yeah. So from a wider GB point of view, then can you take us back to that very first kind of call up when you first went along to a camp and then your first tournament? What recollections have you got from that?
Yeah, it's the whole sort of dynamic changed for me. Like the way people are acting, you could tell obviously it is, but you can tell like it's serious now. It's not obviously we're still doing it for fun, but there's also a really important goal at the end, and it's being the best for GB, which promotes Goalball UK and helps us move up in the ranks as an international squad. But the first thing that struck at me was how like everybody's attitude was really like behind training and wanting to perform, and like seriousness. When Faye's speaking, everybody's listening. You don't wander off. It's not a bit like, it's not all done like la-di-la, if you like. It's just very sort of serious and ready to play, ready to train, and ready to get better. And the other thing I noticed was the level as well. It's the highest sort of level that you go to when you go to a GB camp. It's just sort of, it's a little bit relentless. When you're a new fish as well, you might be a bit of a target on court, because it'll make somebody look a bit better, getting a bit more, maybe they'd think easy goals, if you like. As a bit of initiation, you might be the target or whatever. But I enjoy it. I really and I always have since the start. Like the high intensity, the quick pace, people's quick movements, the large bounces. It's a nice, fun level to play at, and it really like improves how much you understand the sport and what like kind of fast pace you, and like how to understand like how everything works even more. And then my first international experience, I think, if my memory serves me right, my first ever game was against Israel, and Israel had got some big shooters on their team. From my memory, they could throw the ball really, really fast. And I remember Faye saying, "You like tap me on the shoulder with the tap me on the leg, sorry, with the substitution pad, and say, oh, you're going on in 20 seconds, 30 seconds." Just gave me a bit of a heads up, and instantly my body, it was the adrenaline running through me. I couldn't stop it even if I tried. I was sort of not shaking scared, but I was just like, my body was vibrating, like shivering, sort of like uncontrollably. Like I was still in control of diving and shifting and all that, but my body, I was shaking a bit like a leaf, and it kind of went on to court as well. I remember sitting centre, I was like, whew, I'm shaking here. I need to stop shaking. Otherwise they're going to say hit him in centre. But after about 3-4 minutes, it ended up being sort of a bit more of an intense game of goalball again. And I sort of relaxed, but I think I was quite lucky. 'Cause, again, if I remember correctly, I didn't get shot at for about 2 minutes. So they must have not been following the plan, or I must have really scared the opponents anyway.
And they invited you back. You're still there, so you obviously did something right that first tournament. So
this is it. I didn't put it in our own net, passing the ball back in centre. So it was definitely a good start.
Yeah. And I mean, you mentioned coming off the bench as well, and that's a skill in its own right, really, isn't it? Just being prepared mentally and physically to come on during a game. Or equally, if you're not called upon, it's making the best use of that time, isn't it? And just kind of sitting and learning and listening from the bench and taking it all in, so that when your time comes, you're ready for it.
Definitely, you should never be disheartened or upset when you're on the bench, because there's always a method. There's always a plan behind it. Like, say, you might not be able to handle 8 minutes at sort of a certain level of play that you're moving up to, and like, say, it's when you're called, you'll be on court, and you'll be on court for the right amount of minutes that you should be on court for, because the outside world can see how you're performing. Sorry, and like I say, it might be disheartening if you only get 2 minutes or 4 minutes, but then the next camp you might get 8 and 16, and then the next camp you might get to play an entire game or a half, and then you start feeling really good about yourself. But it's that progression. If you keep on seeing how you're progressing up, and how like the minutes are climbing, and how like you're performing, and how more trust is being put in you as well from the coaches and whatnot, that's you notice that quite soon off, and it's a good feeling. You can get quite proud of yourself if you don't keep putting yourself in check and staying humble. Yeah,
building blocks. I think that's a real asset of goalball. We talk about the goalball family, don't we? And I think the fact that other people will help you, even if in a way it might be detrimental to them. If if player A is helping player B, well then player B might become player A, and player A gets demoted to player B. But I think people do that, don't they? It's all in the best interest of goalball, of that team, that people back each other and help each other.
Yeah.
Going to move on to fitness in a second. Just one last GB related comment. This will be valid for anyone who has in the past been to a talent camp, or in the future maybe a talent camp, or involved in the GB setup in any way. If I say to you, and I'm just going to say it, I'm not going to sing it, I'm a little teapot, what are you going to tell me?
I'll tell you about an embarrassing story that I once had to do, and this was at my first GB camp as well. It was the first morning we were there, and I will say I purposely left my bottle behind, but before breakfast. So when we went down to breakfast, I knew there was going to be jugs of water that we could use. So I left my bottle of water up in my room, which was also locked as well. But it got noticed that I left my water bottle behind. So I had to do an unfortunate forfeit, which was sing the I'm a little teapot short and round in front of everybody. And it got filmed, obviously, and then put onto Twitter for everybody in Goalball UK to see, which was obviously a really fun thing to do at your first camp. And I haven't seen that video in a little while, but
I'm sure Tom will be digging it out now. I can sense it.
Don't you worry. We'll find it.
Be attached to this video, no doubt. So. But that just shows the camaraderie in the squad as well, doesn't it? So it was a serious point in that, the gospel of goalball, you should always have your water bottle with you and filled, but equally,
got it now.
Oh, he's waving it now at the camera. I'm impressed. But equally, it's that having a little bit of fun, isn't it, as well, and the camaraderie and the team element in goalball. So
yeah.
So Tom can probably go into a bit more detail for us, but I was just going to ask you a little bit about lockdown. You're fortunate that you're back on a goalball court now. A lot of us are still waiting, but you've had a few sessions. But what have you been doing for the past 9 months then? How have you been keeping yourself fit and also motivated?
So I'm quite fortunate as well through the GB sort of men's side. I've got a grant called Back in the Best, which gives me a bit of a sum of money to spend on equipment, so for gym and stuff. So I've accumulated quite a bit of weights and a piece of cardio equipment as well to keep fit. And my dad and granddad have been quite gracious of letting me use their shed, which is now a gym and no longer a shed. Basically, the one rule is to not drop any of the weights on the floor so I don't splinter the wood. And to keeping fit, I've just sort of been listening to our S&Cs who've been giving us gym programs, but also from when I was at RNC, I did a personal training course. So I also know how to train my body and how to sort of like get the best out of training and keeping fit, and when to rest and when to work out. And I've just sort of been doing various sort of gym sessions with weights, cardio, and sort of that's my main 9 months. It's not the most glorious thing, I'll admit. It tends to be 5-6 days a week. I'll be doing a gym session, and then I'll be resting, I'll be eating food, and then I'll be going on to the next day and then doing another gym session that might concentrate on another bit of my body. So I did shoulders on Monday, I'll do legs on Tuesday, and then I'll give my upper and my lower a break, and I might do my course and my six-pack area, my belly on Wednesday. And then maybe Thursday, if I've earned it, I'll give myself a day's rest. And then, like I say, I might do a cardio session on the Friday. The Friday. And then do like a big back session or a chest session on the weekend. And then maybe, if I've earned it, have a Ben and Jerry's ice cream pot on the Sunday.
Oh. Yes, I'm with you there. That's one of my weaknesses as well. So yeah.
News just off the press for you. If you all look in the chat room at a later day, there is a link to the I'm a Little Teapot. So,
thank you, Tom.
Not a problem at all, mate. Anytime. So please have a look at that at another point.
So Joe, you mentioned RNC there. So obviously you got to play a lot of goalball when you were there. But I'm guessing your studying as well was kind of really beneficial to your goalball. They both complemented each other.
Yeah, definitely have. So my first year, I did the massage course, which is an amazing course at RNC. And it taught me the whole like sort of anatomy and how the body works, and how like biomechanically you should be using like each muscle individually, and how like it can transverse onto court and into the gym. It's really sort of like give me an understanding of the human body. And then in my second year, I did sport and rec, the personal training course. And with that year, I also, because I was just doing training alone basically in the gym and learning gym sessions and how to plan for clients, that was also the year I had the most amount of goalball on my timetable. And I think it was something like 9 hours a week I had of goalball. I think I had 1 hour minimum every day. And then I think from Wednesday to Friday, I had 3 hours on Wednesday and then 2 hours on the Thursday and the Friday. So that was a really big goalball injection for a good 8 months. And what I liked about that was every session had like different players' abilities. So I remember my Monday session, I had specifically novices. And for me, that was I obviously my sort of level was a little bit above theirs, but I was passing on the knowledge that I knew, and I was coaching them. I was teaching them how to shoot, how to defend, penalties, from the bare minimum basics from people starting out. And I remember taking them. Then Aaron Ford, who's the sport academy sport teacher there, I was one of the coaches for the novices team at Bristol, and I think we got a medal. And that, like I say, just sort of really great experiences with goalball, and like playing wise and training wise. And like I say, even I was able to coach quite a bit at RNC, which I really enjoyed as well. Like the whole, I think to become like sort of an expert or a master at something, you can't just be a player. You've got to be a coach, and then you've got to be a ref, and you've also got to be a volunteer, so you can understand like what each aspect brings to the game. And then you know every single cog that's turning, that's making it work. You understand there's two people doing 10 seconds, not just one. There's two, like say there's got to be officially 4 goal judges on each side, and they got to put their hand up, and just all these like sort of minimum stuff that doesn't seem too useful. You understand in every single aspect that you can of like the sport really sort of excels you and really gives you like the best chance of sort of improving and making yourself a better player. And like
goalball's tactical, isn't it? So knowledge of the rules is important, so you know how to apply them or possibly bend them. I won't say break them, but take advantage of the rules, shall we say. So yeah, having that all round knowledge is important.
Definitely, it definitely is.
Yeah. Okay, we'll just go away from goalball just for a minute or so, because I know you spend most of your life in goalball, but the odd times that you're not in this goalball world, what does Joe Roper do just to unwind, just to relax, chill out? What are your other interests away from the sport?
Do I do? Well, I'm quite of your average geek outside of goalball, and before goalball, I used to be your super geek. So thankfully, goalball, I've got myself to a bit more of a normal standard. But I love comics, so like the Spider-Man, Marvel, DC, Batman, Superman. So I like that. That really interests me. And then I also love like films and cinema and like TV shows. And recently, me and my older brother Dom, who's in the chat here now, we rinsed the 8 seasons of Game of Thrones in I think maybe 3 weeks, which was quite an amazing experience, I will admit. Obviously, unfortunately, there was no audio description, but what an amazing show! And I love sort of that fantasy and that sort of beyond normal life sort of like showmanship. I really enjoy that. I'm also a bit of a gamer. I've got my PlayStation just there, and also my Nintendo Switch over there. So I've got a big range of games I like to play. And again, I used to like the sort of the normal ones like Call of Duty and playing online when I was a bit younger and I could actually see what's going on. But now when I play the games like that, I just walk through a door and get shot. So I tend to play the more solo player games where I can just sort of take it at my own pace and I can sort of really enjoy the experience. And as well, for anybody who is interested in games, I've realized recently there's actually a lot more accessibility options. And there's a recent game I bought which had like a mode on it where you could press a button on the controller and the entire screen would turn like grayscale, and like enemies would be bold red, you would be blue, and things you need to pick up are like bright yellow. And it wasn't just for VI. There was deaf options, and there was even for people who can't, like who've got motor issues, who might not be able to use their fingers so well, and it would walk them through the level so you could still experience it. So anybody who is interested in games or anything like that, it's sort of really getting advanced on how they can help you and how they can sort of advance you through the story but still making it fun.
Yeah, I didn't watch it myself, but I saw advertised a Guide Dogs webinar recently, and that was all about gaming and how, as with all aspects of technology, it's just making it more accessible to everybody. So we can probably share a link to that as well in case anyone's interested. And I think it's tonight when the Goalball UK Call of Duty team have been on action again. I didn't get selected for that either, and that's got nothing to do with Sight Joe. So yeah.
We've actually got one of our own Fen Tigers, Daniel Bettis, representing Goalball UK and our club in the squad. And yeah, I hear he's quite a good little shooter from what he's been bragging for the last 3-4 years. So it's good to have this sort of like Goalball UK branching off into new areas.
Yeah, he's certainly a good shooter on court, so let's hope he is on screen as well. So
this is it.
All right, I'm conscious of the time, so we're going to go over to Tom because I can see we've got quite a full chat box. So Tom, do you want to try and hit Joe with some of the questions that have come in?
Yeah, I've just had a freeze screen moment, so I'm having a bit of a stinker. Yeah, so we've got a few questions. Now I'm happy for people to come off a mute if you're happy to and ask it a little bit more personally. So if I start at the top of the list, obviously, Sam, have you got any questions around the motivation and through lockdown? Have you got anything specific you want to ask Joe?
Not really, just in general, like, because I really struggled with motivation on, like, you know, keeping fit and active and stuff like that. Yeah, just on how you overcome that, and what were your like main inspirations on, you know, getting past it and, you know, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, that does, Sam. For me, it's sort of looking at a goal or looking at sort of a main target. Like it could be one that was really driving me, and it hopefully it happens one day with the squad. But a really big driving force is just imagining the Paralympics and what it would be like as a squad. And it could be a pipe dream, and it could be 6 years or however long as how many Olympics until it is, but sort of really focusing on something that really sort of drives you as a person. Really sort of that's what really helps me and what really pushes me to be like, okay, I'm going to get in the gym. I'm going to do what I have to do, because when I get out of lockdown or when this is over, I'll be the best, sort of in the best position for when I'm back on court. But I completely understand. There's been in it for 6 months, the same thing. Like say it sort of won't work every single time, and that's sort of when you just sort of got to grit your teeth and sort of get on with it. If you get me, and you re-find the sort of love and the passion. It sort of ebbs and flows on how you're feeling, how your mood is. But like I say, just sort of trying to stay as positive as you can. And hopefully Goalball UK will have some tournaments going next year, with the possible vaccine sort of being dished out and stuff soon. But really sort of just focus on a main goal that you've got is what helps me.
So maybe a big goal with little goals to get there, stepping stones. Yeah.
Thank you, Sam.
Tick off.
Another one, Steve. Just hand over to you, just on your questions, if you want to ask them to Joe.
Okay. Hi, Joe. I've got a couple of questions, if I may. First one, on the day of a big match, do you have any particular rituals or routines or superstitions that you go through?
I don't have any major ones, but I do have a bit of a weird one. I tend to, if there's a game on beforehand anyway, particularly, I'll pace behind the goal, like the entire 9 meters, and just walk back and forwards and watch the game going on, and sort of imagine like what I would be doing in that situation, really sort of geeing myself up and getting ready to come on court. Not really a controlled one as well, though. On the sort of major games, you can sometimes wake up early or the night before struggling to get to bed because you're sort of imagining the game before it's happened, which it can be a positive, but it also could be a negative if you sort of think about it for too long and don't get the right amount of rest.
So what do you do then when you're overthinking it? How do you switch off and get a bit of sleep?
Sometimes you can't, and you just got to sort of let the game run out in your head. But other times what I tend to do is I'll just get up, try not to wake up my other teammate in my room, because that's obviously an impact as well, because they'll be playing with me or they'll be on court with me the next day. I'll go into the bathroom and I'll just sort of run some cold water on my face, and I'm sort of refreshed, and then sort of get back under the covers.
Right. I've got a second one, Joe, if I'm allowed to ask you a second one.
Of course you are, mate. Of course you are.
2 for 1 Tuesday.
Right. Okay. So what would you say, Joe, is the biggest sacrifice that you've had to make in order to progress your goalball career?
Biggest sacrifice I've had to make. Sort of a big one. It seems sad at first, but it's sort of it's not as bad as it is. I've lost contact and like come out of contact with like some local mates that live right where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a bit upsetting, because obviously I used to go to school with them and all that, but I've also gained so many more friends, and like the whole like Goalball family. I really enjoy the whole positivity. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because I'm so like I'm traveling on the weekends. I can't do you know what I mean? I can't go drinking every weekend, going on nights out with my mates. So it's sort of like, I can't come out. I'm just gonna stay in, eat a good meal, go to the gym maybe, and sort of relax. Which obviously that's not everybody's lifestyle, and it doesn't have to be. But then I think about what I'm doing it for, and it's sort of it really like energizes me for what I'm doing. And yeah, again, everybody I met at Goalball I like pretty much.
Interesting. Yeah, no gain without pain. Well done, mate. Keep it going.
Okay. Did you do anything based on Goalball in lockdown?
Yeah, so I remember saying, actually, yeah, I attempted to do some like throwing practice in my garden, and my nan saw me taking the Goalball outside, and she asked me what am I going to do with that, and then I said I'm going to do some throwing practice, and then she's like, you're going to break one of my windows, so you're not allowed to throw in the garden. So what we did, because obviously socially distanced in Goalball, and me and my brothers were in sort of a bit of a bubble. We went to the local park instead, and we were throwing on the grass, bit more slippier. But yeah, was able to get some throwing practice in. on the rare occasion when sort of the stars aligned, if you like. And then like a specific one is I got a couple of resistance bands, sort of just a big band, like a big rubber band basically, and I was able to attach it to a wall and like simulate throwing a normal goalball shot, but that I wasn't able to do any sort of defensive like sort of scenarios or anything like that, unfortunately. But if you was able to, Bobby Jack, I'd definitely take the advice and take that on board.
Yep, agreed.
What was your question, Bobby Jack, as well? Why you there?
I think it was, can I have your place in the squad? I think that was his question.
Okay.
I think it was,
My
watch
other
your back.
question was about fitness, but that's already been answered.
That's fine, no worries. I think, Catherine, that's it for the questions on here. 1 minute, Dom. There's one come from Dom, but he's eating pizza at the minute, so that's obviously a priority. Sorry, Joe.
It's so good. Let me.
Do you think that it played a big part, and obviously climbing up the ladder and earning a place on the GB squad, giving every 100% on court?
I'm sorry, say that again, Tom. You sort of muffled out for me there.
Sorry. So it says, when on court, you give it 100% every second. Do you think that played a big part in being noticed and climbing up the ladder and earning a place on the GB squad?
Yeah, I definitely would say that's sort of like I say that passion side, that makes sure you're going for every ball. You really are backing your teammates. That's always been something I'm for. And I say, if you come off a game and let's say you lost by 1 goal and you think, oh, I still feel fine, or I could give them more, and you feel that disappointment, I never want to feel that. And I always want to feel like when I come off of court, I've given my 100%, if it's training, if it's a game, or if it's even like coaching somebody else, I've given everything I can to the people around me, or to the goal that we want. And I think that definitely has sort of been seen and like been shown, and sort of what like sort of not replicate, but like we want to see that in more people, like that, just that really I want to be here, I want to be on court, and I want to stop that ball. And I think that's a main sort of, that's my main thing. That's sort of one of my like my main drives and my main sort of like conditions when I play. Just make sure I give 100%.
So Faye's listening. That's you saying you're available for the Europeans, ready to go and give it everything. Yeah.
This is it. Hint, hint. Sign me up. I'm definitely free in January.
Brilliant. Okay. Has anyone else got any more questions? I think we've covered an awful lot there.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Joe, for your time and your honesty, and thank you to everyone who's contributed tonight, be it in person or via emails in the week leading up to it.